welcome back to the Body Breakdown with TNT. I'm Kelly, and today we have a special guest. You guys are very used to David.
Hello.
But today, since Tyler is on the vacation, we have a special guest in. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Oh, well, this is Caleb Coe at TNT Myo-Mechanics. You may have seen me in the studio a few times. Glad to be here.
Okay, I was going to say, are you excited to be here?
I'm very excited to be here. Yes.
I mean, you never really know. Okay. Well, since you're here today, we wanted to talk a little bit about what you do as your job.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
used to Tyler and David's opinions, and I think it's really cool to get a different perspective from one of the trainers or the Myo-Mechanics themselves. So today's podcast is all about what it's like to be a Myo-Mechanic.
All right.
Especially since all three of us are.
Exactly. Sure. This is true.
Well, a first-hand experience. That's good.
Yeah, but you get to work with people on a consistent daily basis, and so I think that's what makes this so cool, is that we get to get your input.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's look here. Come on, y'all.
Okay, well, first off, for everybody listening, they're probably wondering, why do we keep using the term Myo-Mechanic? What does this mean? So how would you guys describe, what is a Myo-Mechanic?
So it's our term. One, we make it simple. It's myo, meaning muscle, and mechanic, someone that fixes things. So that's in the simplest terms. We fix your muscles. That's kind of the simplest way to put it.
Okay. I was going to say, that's what I was going to say whenever I was thinking about that, too. We just taking how we break that word down, Myo-Mechanics, what it means, and that's what we do. So
I guess things that we do that, is when we talk about muscles, the things that we do differently is we massage, we stretch, and we exercise. So a lot of times you'll have just a massage therapist is only massaging. And then you'll have every now and then you'll see stretches, but there's not a lot of people that actually physically stretch on, and everyone's done exercises. So we take all three of those and we make sure all three of them are the things that we're doing to make sure your muscles are healthy almost too. Does that make sense?
Yep. Kind of a bag of everything. Everything that your muscle could possibly need. Whether it's a flexibility thing, a strength, anything in between. Anything that's what we do.
Yeah, cool.
So I know we kind of use the analogy of the body and the car. And is that kind of where you get this muscle mechanics term from? Because, we kind of talk about this often. Your body is like a car. If you're not keeping up with it, you're going to have to pay a lot in the long run whenever everything totally breaks down. But if you're taking care of it along the way, if you're doing oil changes, making sure you're taking care of the check engine light when it goes off, and not just saying, hey, whatever, like I do with my car. So is that kind of where you're getting that analogy from? Yeah,
absolutely. Because, it takes consistent maintenance is what we need to be doing on your body. So those muscles, if you're not working on them, they're going to get tighter. They're going to get weaker. So you need to continually be massaging to get out knots that might arise, stretching out muscles all the time to make sure they're elongating properly and rebuilding balance. Because we do things in our daily life, just like if you're driving, you're going. If you're not, going back and cleaning things up and doing things, are going to break down. And that's kind of what we do is we go and make sure we're cleaning everything up in your muscles so that it can work better.
Yeah. The car analogy is what I use. I use that analogy more than I probably run into ground with how many conversations I have, but I think that is the perfect analogy with your body. You're always constantly using your body. You're always doing stuff, daily tasks, easy things, hard things, and then if you're always constantly doing something with it, but there's never a maintenance phase, obviously, just like you said, you're going to run into the ground. So I think that's the perfect analogy to use when it comes to your body and how you use it, but having not just the all the active stuff that you do. That's a thing, especially when people start thinking about, well, I'm really healthy, I'm active, I move around, I do all these things and stuff. But there's a whole entire other side of what your body needs and your muscles need.
You might have some muscles that are working really good.
Yeah.
But what about some of the arms? Yeah.
And that's where that whole compensation side of things comes in, where you're like, I'm really, really strong. Well, you might be only strong in 40% of all the muscles you should be using, kind of thing.
Yeah. Another way I like to look at it for a mechanic is when something's going wrong, you take it to a mechanic and they diagnose what's going wrong. And that's what I think what's the biggest difference is, we get you tuned up and everything, but we diagnose what's going wrong. And that's the bigger one is you coming in with the pain. Pain's our check engine light. Like you said, it's telling us, ooh, something's going wrong. So then we use the muscles to tell us where that pain's coming from because something's putting tension on that spot. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. So we're looking at things, it's called the muscular skeletal system. There's bones and there's muscles. muscles can't work without bones, and bones can't move without muscles. So bones would just, you just had a bunch of bones, there's 206 bones and 600 hip muscles, and they're all working together. So if you just had only bones, they would just fall right to the ground. And if you only had muscles, it would just be one big putty of muscle. So a muscle can only contract when it's attached. Both sides of it is attached at a muscle, and a bone can only move when those two, that muscle contracts and moves that bone. So that's what we're looking at, is how are we affecting that? And if the pain's usually telling us there's something going wrong in this musculoskeletal system. Unless you ran your knee into the wall, that's a different scenario. That was an acute injury. That isn't being caused by, tension. But if you didn't really do anything, you're just trying to figure out, something just kind of tweaked up and something's coming out of nowhere, high chance it's because a muscle is now tight, putting pressure on that. And that's what we do, is we go in and we diagnose and we try to figure out where that tension's coming from. So kind of the steps that we would do is we would ask, all right, where's your pain at? And you would get, it's right here in this spot here. So then my goal as a myomechanic is, I know the anatomy and I know the organs and insertions like nobody's business. So that I will do, okay, that pain right there, that means there's an attachment point of a muscle that's ending there, that's putting pressure there. So now in my head, I start thinking, okay, what are all the muscles that are attaching to that point? And I start going through in my head as we're talking about that, and I start diagnosing them. So then I go and I start touching those muscles, and the muscles that are not working right, that are dysfunctioning, I like to call it, is a muscle that's not contracting or elongated, are usually super sensitive. So if I touch that muscle, it's probably gonna be really tender. It's gonna be like, ow, you're gonna touch that and you're like, I didn't realize that was even a problem. But that muscle that's not working is leading right to the pain point that I'm in. So that's my goal, is I take that muscle and I try to get it to function correctly. Is it not elongating? Is there a trigger point in it? Is it too weak? What it is? And I try to get it to working again to allow that. And if I can get that working again, that muscle working again, I'll have you stand up and see if that pressure or do whatever you do that's causing that pain, and that pain will be gone a lot of the times if I was on the right muscle.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and that's kind of like when we focus on getting to the root cause of whatever the issue is, because you can have somebody come in. And a lot of the first questions we do ask is, hey, how you feeling today? And then what's bothering you and stuff. And obviously we have a game plan of, we know why they're in there. We know what we're going to be working on. But from day to day, they can have a different, it hurts a little different, that kind of thing. So we dig in, but we never want to just stay on that surface level, like, hey, my knee hurts. Okay, well, what is around the knee? What other muscle groups are attached there? And again, like you're saying, you're pressing on a muscle. This one's extremely tender. Okay, that's obviously an issue and stuff like that. But we keep digging and digging and digging until we're on the right action step.
So before we get too deep into this, because you guys are diving right in today, I guess the best way to put this is a couple podcasts ago we talked about our brand change and how we're changing our name from TNT Health and Fitness to TNT Myo-Mechanics. And so for the last few years, all people have known us as are personal trainers. So what would you say is the distinguishing difference between a myomechanic and a personal trainer? I would say it's a personal trainer almost on steroids. They know more is what it is, because most personal trainers are just, you're gonna do these exercises, and there's no real fundamental, not necessarily purpose, but it's just about exercising. We're here about getting your muscles to work correctly, and that's kind of like the difference. Is yes, before you want to get stronger and do those hard exercises, you got to make sure everything's functioning correctly. So that's kind of the bigger difference that I would say right off the bat. So
a lot of times too, and I think one of the things I'm glad that we did change the name, because there's so many preconceived notions on what people think a personal trainer is. So they come in thinking one way, and a lot of times there's nothing wrong with this goal of a general goal. I want to get fit, or I want to lose weight, or I want to do something like that, where we're those are things that need to be taken care of. But just how the human body works and all the problems it can run into, there's just so much more that needs to be focused on, and I think that's what we do, and that's what we kind of add to the conversation.
I guess even to play on that is even in the first 5, we're going on 6-7 years now, we were doing just the normal exercises that everyone else is, and we kept running into injuries. People would get injured in themselves, and we were couldn't figure out, why is that? We're following all the exercises and protocols that a normal personal trainer would, but that was what happens because we were building things on an unstable foundation, and that's kind of where what we kind of did is sometimes you got to take a couple steps back and build out that foundation, make sure all your muscles are working correctly before you start just loading it up. And that's kind of what most people are doing, is just going in, loading it up, and trying to do all these really hard exercises. and not stretching, not digging out these muscles. And if you're just breaking down, doing really hard exercises over and over and over, breaking down your muscle tissue, it's just going to get tighter. And you're just going to cause more knots and more scar tissue in there. So you got to make sure you're getting and doing the tune-up work. Get those muscles loosened up. Get those muscles elongated over and over and over again too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of that old Sunday school song, like, do you build your house on sand or you build your house on a rock?
Yeah.
If one doesn't have a good foundation, that house is going to crumble. So you can spend all your time exercising, trying to pretty up that house, but it's not going to be worth a thing whenever it crumbles.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I think too, when especially like everybody wants to look good, but if you look good but you're in pain, it's not really worth it.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And this is where who we see the common person, either somebody. Well, I guess we've seen a vast variety of people where somebody who. They were a high school athlete, they were a collegiate athlete, they were on their way to the pros, they were, the Olympics, those kind of things. And that's one side of the spectrum. And then you have the person who has, never worked out a day in their life, never lifted a dumbbell a day in their life. Just when it comes to the knowledge and experience and stuff, it's almost zero. So everything in between. But again, it's like you want to have a go, you want to look good, you want to, I guess, feeling good and being pain-free. That would be your number one thing. And again, that comes back to the foundation stuff. So you want to make sure foundation is okay.
And I think it's important to note that, like, collegiate level athlete, Olympic level athlete, and the average everyday person who's never stepped foot in a gym, there is a place for every spectrum, every person in that spectrum at TNT.
Yeah.
Because that is part of what we do. Because,
everyone's body really works exactly the same. It's just how far down the process are you. And then the problem is sometimes they keep going down this process with an unstable foundation, and it just takes so much more work to get actually, because you have to take so many steps back, and sometimes people aren't willing to take a step back whenever they feel like they should way up here. When we're like, hey, we need to take a step back to build a stronger foundation, and that's just something that some people aren't willing to do.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation in itself too.
And sometimes that's what makes the person who comes in and has never exercised before so easy to work with and progress so quickly.
True.
Yeah, because they're like, I haven't done any of this perfect, because this is where you need to be right now.
They're blank slate.
Yeah.
And again, they don't have a lot of preconceived notions of I've always exercised this way. I've always done it this way. So when we come along and we're tweaking things and changing things and having them do it a different way, having them do an exercise they've never done before, and so it's not so much of you're blowing their mind as in you're changing everything they ever thought. It's just, I'm here, I'm ready to learn. Here's my go. I'm going to trust you guys to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay, well, next question is, what does it take to be a myomechanic?
You got to know anatomy very, 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 very well, and be able to think of it and know how to interpret it within the seconds of talking to a client. So,
I was gonna say your problem-solving skills because there's not like we were talking about. You said everybody's body is the same as far as like the human body is the same. Your bones are bones, your muscles are muscles, kind of thing. But you're going to have somebody that comes in, or maybe we have 3 people come in during the day. They all have a knee problem, or they all have like a knee pain or something like that. All 3 of those different situations can be vastly different.
Yeah, 100%.
From person to person. So so there's really not no like cut and dry. Like if I come in with knee pain or if I come in with back pain, this is exactly what you do 100% of the time, all the time. So being able to always know, even though the human body is the human body. But everybody is different in that, you know, how they acquired their injury, what repetitive motions are they doing. There's a lot of questions you could dive in on that. But,
I would say like everyone's body's built the same. They have the same bones, they have the same muscle attachments and everything, but everybody's activities and that they do on a daily basis, the things,
balances or tightness,
everything. So that's where that's the 206 bones and 600 different muscles intertwining together is all the same, but everybody's actions are different. You know, everybody's imbalances and weaknesses or everything's different. So that's kind of what we do is we go and find out where those are and hone in, and you know, and this is where it's problem solving 101. It's like you're right. It's you gotta, all right, this person is having issues here, or they can't move into this movement here. Now, what muscles are going to do that? And you have to be able to know in your head all these movements right now, the muscles that are in that there, and exactly where they are, and how do you elongate them? How do you massage them? How do you strengthen them? You have to know all of those things in the second that you're working with the client.
Yeah.
Kind of what you were saying earlier. If I bend my elbow, what muscles are now shortening to pull that elbow in? what has to stretch in the back of my arm in order to let that motion happen. I mean, you have to think of 5 million different things.
There's no like neutral ground on like anytime your body does something, any movement at all, even if it's a real simple movement. There's a select amount of muscle groups that are moving. Some are contracting. Some are elongating. Yeah, that kind of thing. So, and again, you need to know for every movement, every way your body can move. You need to know what's attached here, and how it works. And is this your target muscle group you're trying to move? Is it something that's getting in the way because of different imbalances that are going on?
I think the other thing that goes with that is you have to be creative and innovative all at the same time as you're doing. So one stretch may work perfectly fine for one person, but then you go to the next person and it's different. And you got to figure out what way can I get this muscle to stretch for this person, because they may have just a slight difference in there. And sometimes that's where we're creating new stretches, and me and Kelly just created a new stretch this morning, and we're working phenomenal. So we're always creating new ways and everything, because that person needed something slightly different, and that's the really biggest thing was with us with Myo-Mechanics and why we're different is because we tailor and we make sure we're finding the stretch and the way to do the stretch to the muscle and the muscle that they need the most stretch for that specific person. If that makes sense. So,
yeah.
I would say if I had to sum up being a Myo-Mechanic in one word or one sentence, it's really just being able to think on your feet fast. Kind of like a teacher whenever they're with the student and they're like, okay, they're not getting it this way, I got to figure out a new way to teach them. We have to make 5,000 decisions in the course of 1 or 2 sessions.
100%.
And then times that by however many sessions you have, up to 20, 30 a day. You have to be able to think on your feet and think quick. And so that knowledge has to be at the tip of your head or tip of your mind whenever you're doing any sort of mobility. If you're working out with somebody and suddenly this movement doesn't work and you got to figure out how to correct that form. I mean, from the full range, the full spectrum, there's a lot of decisions to be made.
And that's part of why we, require so much studying and practicing. Like we study these muscles all the time. We create fun games to make it not as tedious. So we're over here playing Family Feud anatomy style, like most people would. So
Jeopardy, charades.
Yeah, so it makes it to where it's not boring, but we're still learning, because you got to stay sharp. If we forget what these muscles in this movement pattern in, it doesn't allow us to do the job that we're trying to do, because every single person that goes in there, like, all right, which muscle is it that's causing this problem? And I got to know all of them, and I got to go test them all in that specific scenario at every single second.
I think too, being able to communicate that to the client, kind of thing, because it's one thing where they trust you during your session. I know that they're gonna work on me. I know they know what they're doing, but it always helps to help that trust when you can educate them on why you're doing every single thing that you're doing along the way too, and stuff like that. So kind of taking these seemingly complicated textbook just a textbook worth of information on your body and how it works and stuff, and taking that, but then to be able to explain that in the simplest way possible, what makes sense to you. No matter what makes sense to you, but obviously makes sense to.
I would say that's kind of one of the differences. You go to a doctor or a physical therapist, and they seem to make it very complicated with really complicated words. We're going to do the opposite. I'm going to make it as simple as possible so you can understand it with an analogy, with simpler words. Sometimes I ignore the complicated words because it's stupid. There's no point to know these complicated words if I can't communicate those words if you don't know what they mean. So I create what's going to make sense for us as the trainers to talk, or to the client. Like if I'm like, oh yeah, you have this, and it's some word, but all it means is inflammation. Like I'm gonna tell you have inflammation there. Like I try to make it as simple as I can for the clients, because it's very important. That's one thing I always want is our clients to understand what we're working on, why we're working on it, and have every single question answered. Because that's one thing I hear them. They went to the doctor, or they went to this place, and they just didn't answer the questions that they had, or they gave them an answer that didn't really make sense. So like that's what we want to make sure they 100% understand what we are going to do and why we're going to do it and why it's going to fix their problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so last question I have for you guys is, why is it important to have this new field in the health and fitness industry and in the general health industry, whether it's medical or otherwise?
Yeah, so I always like the sentence or the slogan, like bridging the gap. Like where, again, like you go to your doctor for these needs and here's the outlets you're going to get. You go to your physical therapist for these needs and here's the outlet. Chiropractic, massage therapist, personal trainer and stuff like that. So we're kind of, again, this is not, I'm not a doctor. We're not a doctor, that kind of thing. But it's just we're taking everything that your body needs. And sometimes what your body needs, you can't get from the person that you went to. So that especially when it comes down to just your muscles and your muscular skeletal system. So just bridging the gap, taking everything your body needs and being able to do that.
Yeah, kind of really the gap is that you want to do those hard exercises, that you might see normally as a personal trainer or in a CrossFit, you're doing all these, but you're not ready to do those.
Yeah.
But, or you did those and you put yourself right, the foundation collapsed like we talked about, and now you're in physical therapy. So physical therapy gets you moving your body where you're not in like excruciating pain, but after that time frame doesn't mean your whole thing is fixed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be happening between you and in physical therapy and you doing these really hard exercises again. And that's kind of that gap that we're trying to do, is getting you to start building that foundation and start going and progressing to the points that you can do those. And that's kind of that gap, is we don't see a lot of people focusing on the right actions to get you there. It's kind of where I see it.
Kind of like working in like segments of that scenario, take you from worst case scenario, you're super unhealthy, lots of pain, you can't do anything other than like maybe get out of your bed in the morning.
You don't want to jump to CrossFit.
Exactly. And there's that. So there's so many different scenarios, and there's a progression that needs to happen along the way. And again, being able to do that all pain free, while giving you again every element that you would need along the way.
Yeah. Some other things is, not a lot of people know about their muscles. Not a lot of people know how they affect their body and what is imbalance. I don't know how many times we go in and we start digging on something and someone's like, well, I didn't even know that was a problem. Like those are so like that's kind of the thing of the new part. The why it's very important is people still got to understand they got to start taking care of their muscles too. Like that's the thing is. We comparative. We're 50 years behind the dentistry. So back 50 years ago, dentists, people didn't brush their teeth. They didn't know it, and then it was the weirdest thing. I got to do stuff to take care of my teeth. Like now it's just that's what you do every single day. Is you brush your teeth.
Yep.
You floss. You're doing all these things that take care of your teeth. Like we need to take care of our muscles. So we need to be massaging. We need to be stretching. We need to be exercising on a daily basis to make sure we're taking care of our body, and that way we're not breaking down and we're having to have all these surgeries. And that's why it's because we're not consistently working on it. We've been ignoring these factors for you're on 30, 40, 50 up to some people 60 years not working on any of these muscles, and it comes to giant problems at that point in time. And that's kind of what we want to help people do, is understand the importance of this and build it into a regular habit every week, every day. You're working on these, because it's a never-ending thing. Your muscles either going to be getting stronger because you're working on it, or it's getting weaker because you're not doing anything on it. There is no maintaining. Maintaining doesn't exist. It's always, the stock market doesn't just go, boo. It's either going up or it's going down. Same concept with your muscles. You're either getting stronger or you're getting weaker. So we have to be focusing on doing stuff positively for your muscles. If you're not, that means you're going negatively. Your muscles, you're getting weaker. Things are getting tighter. There's more knots happening. If you're not focusing on those. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's the car analogy. It's the same thing. It's imagine you got a brand new car. It's in the best shape possible, kind of thing, and you drive that car, but you never put gas in it. You never, you just, that would be one component, right?
Well, you ain't gonna go over.
You're not gonna go very far, But I mean, just like you never rotate the tires, you never change the oil, you never, the check engine light just came on. I'll worry about it later, that kind of thing. And just imagine, like, how long, what's the shape of that car gonna be in if you literally never focus on any of the other things other than driving the car.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what everybody's doing, is they're just driving their car and they're not rotating tires. And now they get the tire goes flat, and it's like, man, why does it feel like it's so hard to get moving today? Why does it go?
Let me just keep driving.
Because you got a freaking flat in there. Like, let's fix the tires. Same thing. You got that little hitch in your hip. And you're like, man, it's starting to really hurt in my hip here. Like, same concept. You just you got a flat there. You need to go in and work it out. You got to fix that flat instead of just going on your daily business.
That's where that's the sad part too. And again, why we exist and stuff, because there are so many people that do that. We're just like, oh, my knee hurts, my back hurts, my neck hurts. You know what? It'll probably be better tomorrow. And stuff.
Or I'm just getting old.
That was what I was saying. That's just getting old. It's like, no, you got to work on these things. Like you're just getting old because you haven't been working on these things for 30, 40, 50 years. Yeah. Like, that's what it is. It's like, if you didn't change your tires for 50 years, I guarantee it's going to be really hard to get around. So it's the same analogy there.
And anytime there's that excuse, there's always someone out there who trumps that excuse that proves that wrong.
Yeah,
because it's not always just a part of getting old. There's always somebody out there who is 85, 90, who's been taking all the right steps, that has no pain and is living a fantastic, fulfilled life.
Yeah.
So that's never the excuse that you can really rely on. It's not a solid one.
Yeah, it's a fact that you just have to take care of yourself, and that's you just. And most of, and this is part of the things, people don't even know this. Like, I was having a conversation with someone this morning, and they were just like, It's just crazy that like it's just not taught. No one understands it. It's the same thing like that. It's just there's an education that has to happen for people to start understanding why this is important. And that's kind of like with back to the dentistry. People didn't understand it was important until people started understanding it and learning about it. And now, oh yeah, it makes sense. I got to brush my teeth every single day. I got to flossing.
Yep. Guys, we got a lot of work to do.
This is 100% right. That's kind of when I say it's a new field of it. Is it's going to take time.
So if you guys are going to tell all the people listening, as Myo-Mechanics, one thing, what is that going to be?
Okay. If you're experiencing pain, don't ignore it.
I'm going to go with muscles are causing your pain.
Okay.
Pretty good.
I gotta say consistency is key. Because if you aren't on a routine, then nothing can get better.
100%.
I think it's good.
I think all three of them are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys want to add anything else before we close out? Any parting?
If you have pain, come in for our 3 free days, and we'll show you what causes that pain, and come see a Myo-Mechanic to show you what's causing your pain.
Okay.
Ditto. There it is, right there.
What do you say?
Well,
what do you say?
Word. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, there you have it. If you would like to try to experience this 3 free days that we have going on, we can basically sit down with you, spend honestly probably over 3 hours together going over your pain, what's causing it, how we can help. We kind of just really dive in depth, and we want to do it for free because we want you to experience what we have to offer before you're ever
locked into anything.
Locked into anything, and we don't even have really a lock in.
There's me.
Honestly, we're week to week, so you're not locked into a contract either.
Come hang out with us.
It really is a no-lose situation, if we're being honest.
Come hang out with us.
But we want you to fully experience what we do, so you can make sure that we're the right fit for you, and so we can prove that we can help fix you.
Yep.
So that's really what the 3 free days is all about. So we really encourage you, click on the link below, go ahead, look at all of our other videos. We have a million different ways that you can text in and claim those 3 free sessions, and then Misty will call you, kind of get a really good idea of what your situation is, and then we'll get you on the schedule. But in the meantime, keep looking out for all of our content, because we got it coming weekly all the time. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, interact, so we can keep showing up on your feed. And in the meantime, look out for next week. We got more stuff coming for you.